The PPI comes out, the market reacts, shooting up, and then immediately giving it all back and diving back down, closing in the green. The CPI comes out today. The major banks are starting to report, and the chaos from the beginning of 2025 seems to be taking over us. But we're here to make sense of things, so subscribe. And let's dive into the charts. Let's see what the SPY and market brought us on the last trading day. This is the second day the SPY closed. We're in a bearish trend, rated C, within a descending channel of lower highs and lows with a gap. Observe the day's start, end, and sideways movement. Remember to zoom in and out to understand price movement. We opened with a gap, up, closed in the second hour. A doji appeared on a crucial support area, followed by up and down moves. On the 65-minute chart, there's a double top resembling an M with the FTI's green line as the neckline. A break below a 65-minute candle signals a move to 575, closing the gap at 574. A descending trend line of lower highs persists within the broader channel, evident. And we closed it in the second hour. We got a doji on an extremely important support area. We went back up, we went down, and we have here, in the 65-minute chart, notice that we have a double top. A double top is a price movement that resembles the letter M in English, and this is its neckline. The green line of the FTI is the neckline. A break, a close below a 65-minute candle, and we're heading to 575. We have a descending trend line of lower highs in the broader channel, a channel from the daily chart over a month. We are looking at the daily chart, but the trend is not daily. It's a trend ongoing since December 6, 2024, making lower highs and lows, thus still in a bearish trend. Rating C. Let's see how the CPI affects the market. Note the RSP leading with a 0.84 rise. Within the longer channel, within the broader channel, this channel that we know from the daily chart has been around for over a month. Notice that, yes, we are looking at the daily chart, but the trend here, the direction, is not a daily trend. It's a trend that's been going on for over a month. A trend that started on December 6th, 2024, and since then, we've just been making lower highs and lower lows. Therefore, we are still in a bearish trend, rating C. Let's see how CPI will affect the market. Let's see how the market will react to the CPI. Pay attention to the RSP, which is leading the market with a rise of 0.84. The RSP 0.84 RSP. Oh, the place. The RSP is an ETF that gives equal weight to each stock in the S&P 500. Notice that it's forming a double bottom here on the daily chart. The FTI is already rating it A in trend bullish. Very, very interesting. In any case, I would wait to see how the market reacts to the CPI and, of course, the major banks. We talked about this. We discuss it in every video in the live sessions we've had. We mentioned that we are in a time of great uncertainty, chaos, call it what you want. And during such times, the only thing we can do to protect our money is not to do anything. Just do nothing. It's to do nothing. Just do nothing. Notice the RSP, which has just been moving sideways since December 19th. Still within the longer range. If we zoom out, we see that since the end of November, it has been in a descending channel. There's a double bottom here. Let's see how the market will react. Let's see. Nothing will happen this week. We simply won't do anything. And when I say nothing, I mainly mean swing trading. Notice that the SPY in the end also closed red. This is how it looks on the 65-minute chart. Also the SPY. Notice that it opened with a gap up, closed it, and then moved sideways, just like the SPY, but a bit more volatile than the SPY. Still, it only has 100 stocks, while the SPY has 500. These tails should be treated just like gaps. And if we know that over 90% of all gaps close, don't be surprised if this tail also closes even. In the first 2 hours of the day, Wednesday, 500, a very important support area. Below that, we're going to close that gap here at 490, and the Dow Jones, which closed green with a doji. Let's see. Let's take this trend line, copy and paste it. We're still in a downtrend. Notice the lower lows and lower highs. There's also some divergence here. Rated B in a bullish trend. It's very interesting how the FTI ranks the... As for the Dow Jones, I would wait for a close above 430.63. IWM is at 114, rated B in a bullish trend. Is there something that the FTI is identifying that we aren't really seeing yet? Very, very interesting. Notice that we are in a descending channel, but with a rating of B in a bullish trend. What does that mean? First of all, it means that the FTI identifies that there's quite a good chance that this downtrend is about to end, or from its perspective, it has already ended. What does that mean? First of all, it means that the FTI identifies that there's quite a good chance that this downtrend is about to end, or from its perspective, it has already ended. But 214 needs to hold as support, otherwise we're going to close gap here at 211.54. Bitcoin breaks from 93,700 support. A December 5th tail might lead to a spike. A double bottom could lift Bitcoin. From here, notice that we had this tail on December 5th, and after that we got a spike, a drop, and we closed it. Now with this tail, will we get a spike? We have a double bottom here that could take Bitcoin up. If we take the last 21 trading days, it will be a bit more accurate. Notice that this was the last swing, and this is not the last swing. We're stuck in the yellow area with two candles that look strong. A breakout above 97,700, a close above 97,700. Always talk in terms of closing, not breaking or piercing. The close is what matters, where the price closed, and it doesn't matter what types you trade, whether it's day trading or swing trading, it doesn't matter. Continued rises to 99,677 and back above 200. Notice Ethereum, which is stuck. Not only is it stuck, but it's also leaking. It's slowly leaking down. There's a trend line of lower lows here. On Monday, the Monday candle touched it, bounced back, and an inside candle breaking below the low of this inside candle means we're going to close that tail. As of now, Ethereum looks much weaker than Bitcoin. Mags, that's the cool SN7, pay attention. Rated A in a bullish trend, and you can definitely understand why. It's been in a descending channel for almost a month, and it had this gap. First of all, this gap was already closed yesterday, the day before on Monday. This gap has closed. Now we have this gap left at 52.65 and 51.36. Let's keep an eye on gas. Notice that it's still within an ascending channel. 414, not 414, 414. A very strong resistance area. A breakout and a close above, and we're on our way to 447 and to the upper boundary of this ascending channel, which could be around 5. It could be around 5.36. 36. SMH, the semiconductors, with a day of 0.33, still rated A in a bullish trend. Nothing interesting. If we just put the FTI on our chart, we'll get, with the click of a button, all the relevant technical information we need to make better, more informed, smarter decisions that will help us do one thing to make more money in the stock market. That's why I developed it. First of all, I developed it for myself, so I don't have to think too much. Yes, I know. To trade. Yes, that's my profession. Yes, I do this for a living. Yes, I'm a profitable trader. Years. I've been doing this for about 8-something years. I was still missing this tool, so I developed the FTI. All my knowledge, whether it's through Fibonacci and candle, reading across all time frames, buy signals, Sell signals based on volatility. Based on Fibonacci, it gives us trend lines. Everything at the click of a button. It doesn't even matter what's written here, and it doesn't matter what the time frame is. It will analyze anything. This system will analyze anything from a purely technical perspective. SOX X, although it's on a trend line of higher lows, is still below the sell signal and still in a bearish trend. I'm going to wait for a trend reversal that the FTI will indicate to me, and then I'll decide whether to enter SOXX. Apple is down 0.5%. Notice the trend line of higher lows. Support is now turning into resistance, but this resistance could be very, very good, because if Apple's price continues to stick to this trend line, even if it's below it, the way is up. It's still early. We're below the sell signal that we received on December 30th. Notice what the downward trend in Apple. The last time we saw such a downward trend in Apple was somewhere around July, August 2024. It really reminds me of that. Now we just need to sit and wait and see when this will end. When did these declines in Apple end? Since its peak in December, Apple has dropped over 10%. Nvidia had another red day. During the day, at the beginning of the day, it didn't happen at the start. It happened, yes, it happened on the first candle. Notice that it filled the gap that opened on Monday and then came back down. If you want to understand what happened within that candle, all you need to do is zoom in on the 15-minute chart. Notice it opened up 1.5%, meaning Nvidia opened 1.5% higher and closed. This is the candle for Tuesday. And it dropped by 1.1%. Nvidia fell over 4% intraday, heading to 126, a break, and closed below 126. We'll close the gap at 119. Is this a good time for Nvidia? Absolutely not. As a break, below 127, not just a close, we'll close that gap and bring Nvidia back to test 100. Now, is it on its way to 126? Breaking, closing below 126, and we're going to close the gap at 119. So if this is a good time to enter Nvidia, definitely not. Because in my opinion, a break below 127, not only a close, below 127, will not only close this gap, I think it will also bring Nvidia back to test the 100 area. Microsoft, which continues to zealously guard the 409-410 area as a super important support area, is currently rated A in the Amazon trend, bearish. Continues to be liquid inside a descending channel, rating A, trend bullish. We have here a support at 213.77 and another support at 228.24. Google, which is maintaining a very important support area at 188. It has a multi-top here. And for those who don't know what a multi-top is, there is the book, which mine. The book is in English, and I'm creating a Hebrew version, but we're covering the American stock market with English concepts. If we want to understand the American stock market, the world's largest market, we need to understand basic English concepts like support, resistance, trend lines, Fibonacci. It's all my knowledge, tools, experience, how I think, how I trade, with illustrations and detailed explanations. I promise you that once you choose the book or the book with a study program, you'll have it in writing and recorded, and you'll be covered from all angles to understand how to make money from the stock market and grasp concepts like double tops, double bottoms, how to identify price movements before they happen so we can catch the movement, not in hindsight. In hindsight, everyone is smart. All my knowledge, all my tools, all my experience, how I think, how I trade, everything is in this book. Everything you see in all my YouTube videos, in every live session, is in this book, with illustrative pictures and detailed explanations, very focused. Check the links in the description below. I promise you that once you choose either the book or the book along with one of the study programs, you'll have it both in writing and recorded. Then you'll really be covered from all angles to do one thing: truly understand how to make money from the stock market and grasp concepts like double tops, double bottoms, how to identify price movements before they happen so we can catch the movement. Not in hindsight. In hindsight, everyone is smart. We want to catch price movements before they happen, and that's why we're here with our eyes on Google, a close below 188, and we're first heading to 185.22, and then we're going to close that gap at 176. Not in hindsight. In hindsight, everyone is smart. We want to catch price movements before they happen, and that's why we're here with our eyes on Google, a close below 188, and we're first heading to 185.22. And then we're going to close that gap at a 176. So that could be a nice swing short of about 6%. Not bad at all. Meta continues to break down, and notice this. Does the movement of Google and the movement of Meta remind you of each other? Of course, we have the beginning of a double top, a multi-top. Reminds me of a mistake, right? It reminds me. A bit of imagination is also needed. Multi-top, what does that mean? There's a very strong resistance area here. We're right at the neckline. If it continues to drop to 580, then it could bounce back to the 560, 550 area. Tesla. Pay attention. Is there a potential double bottom here? It could very well be. But Tesla also opened green. And a red candle during the day. Tesla lost practically at the low over 6.5%. That's why I always say not to get into swings and not to make decisions about swings at all during the day, because what happens during the day doesn't interest us. What interests us is what happens towards the end of trading, right before the closing bell, because then we get a complete picture of the daily candle. This is the candle we're trading. If we are swing traders, we don't trade this candle, we don't trade these candles, we don't trade these candles, we trade these candles, and that's why only these candles interest us. Yes, we can dive into the 65-minute chart to understand what's happening, how the daily candle is forming, because we want to make our decision towards the end of the day. All this and more, I promise you, we're going deep, diving in, analyzing, what you might call digging into the whole topic of candles and Fibonacci. All links in description below. A break below 373, and this downward trend continues, and we're on our way to close the gap. First of all, we have the gap at 345, and then the gap at 323. AMD isn't getting any rest, and I told you yesterday that I took AMD and closed it in the pre-market. Why? Because it opened, its pre-market was very, very green, and slowly it went down, and we identified this already in the pre-market, that it was losing height. I locked it in during the pre-market, took the money, said thank you very much, and pay attention. 114.41, 141 repeated, ending with 14. A very important support. 3 days of sideways movement. There's still no dip here. We tried to catch the dip. We failed. We took the money in the end, but we failed. We didn't identify dip. Why? Because no one can identify the dip. You can't identify a dip. The dip can always, as they say in English, the deep always can get deeper. The deep, listen. Netflix continues to bleed downwards, and all the November gains are being erased, continuing the declines. We are approaching reports in 6 days, and if this gap opens, there's a chance it will close in the January reports. Palantir ended green at 143. Is this it? It's still too early to tell. 63.40 is an extremely important support. Breaking below that, and we are going to check the 50 area. Shopify, which finished red, continues to bleed on a downward trend line to close this gap at 92.35. The probability is extremely high. Over 85 to 90% of all gaps close eventually. MicroStrategy had an amazing day, up 4.19%, but you know this trend line. It's still too early to tell. We are rated C in the trend. 340 is a very important support. Breaking below that, and we are checking the 50 area. Shopify, which finished red, continues to bleed on a downward trend line on its way to close this gap at 92.35. And when I say on its way to close the gap, there's a very high probability because we know that over 85-90% of all gaps eventually close. MicroStrategy, which had an amazing day, up 4.19%. But do you know this trend line? It got stuck on it. With a trend line, do we have a gap down here? There's a very high probability because we know that over 85-90% of all gaps eventually close. MicroStrategy, which had an amazing day, up 4.19%, but do you know this trend line? It got stuck on it once again with a doji trend line. Do we have a gap down here? Yes, we have a tiny gap up here, but it doesn't matter. If the gap is small or big, the size of the gaps doesn't determine anything. And now there's a pretty good chance that we'll see 318 and then back to 285. 85? Thank you very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, like and subscribe, and only if you want 25 successful tips, check the links in the description below. I promise you'll find what you're looking for. Until the next video, until the next live stream, I wish us all a peaceful day.